Yo, what's up? Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hey,
I can hear you. We're good.
good.
Just posting it everywhere real quick.
Sounds good. Just adjusting my lighting as best I can. Well, I'm getting my screening of Thor tonight.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I've been reading terrible reviews all day.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people really hate it. Critic for the Seattle Times gave it 1 star, said it's the worst Marvel movie.
Really? How is that even possible? Unless it's just insanely insulting our intelligence, but
I don't know. The tenor of reviews is very, very negative thus far.
how many of these reviews are coming off of critics seeing it with an audience?
I don't know.
I wonder if it seems like the type of movie where it might matter. I don't know. Not that
I can't imagine
enough,
many.
but-
I don't think many regular audiences have seen it so far.
Right. When did your review drop?
Hopefully,
I know you got to see it first, but just,
hopefully Thursday, if all goes well. My Crimes of the Future review should be tomorrow.
yeah, I've been dying to read it and to get prepared. Hey, I did. Would you rather be called Sean Kernan?
No. This is fine.
I all of a sudden I'm listening to the show. Like, wait, he introduced himself differently than I did.
That was an accident. I should have edited that.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I don't have my phone tonight, so we'll have to add that in post. So it doesn't matter for YouTube or you anyway. All you do is pause and wait. So. As soon as you're ready, I'm ready.
All right.
And you're good with Big Trouble Little China, or is this something else you want to think about?
No, that's fine.
All right.
We can't do Cronenberg every week.
I watched a lot of Cronenberg interviews and like hour-long, like on stage question and answer sessions.
Yeah.
A lot of it was for Crash, prepping for that, and then I'm like, I can't find it anywhere.
I know, that sucks.
Because I think that was the ideal movie to compare with. Anyway, we can get to that later.
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the Everyone's Critic Movie Review Podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zero. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at IHateCritics.net, Everyone's Critic Podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. Listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. Subscribe to the show, rate and review the show. We will read your reviews on the air. If you give us a 5-star review, we have several 4K Blu-ray copies of movies to give out, given to us by studios. So we'll read your review on the air and just let us know you did it, and we'll get your movies sent out. Patreon.com/criticspod is the best way to help support the podcast. Listen to our bonus episodes where we talk about movies like Ice Fell in the Grave, along with music reviews, which we've released a couple to the main feed, but for the most part, those are Patreon exclusive. And we'll be doing more of those. We have a couple other ideas we want to pursue. It's just a matter of getting the time. And then our YouTube channel, subscribe to us, watch us live. When we record, we will post a link on our social media letting you know we are going live. Thank you guys for putting up with me not being there last week, and hopefully I don't disappoint. I'm sure it was a better episode than normal. It's awesome, and Amy and Jeff are on. They're fantastic guests. So thank you guys thanks for doing that episode, and hopefully we have them on again soon, and I can be a part of it. This week I don't have my pictures ready. Share the screen. Let's go, YouTube people. I did all this work to get it going, and I'm dropping the ball.
It's an epic fail.
It's a story of me on this podcast. All right. So let me get back to and share screen. And we will start with, wait, not that one. Minions did come out. I did see it, but we're not going to talk about that. So I do feel like a lot of high school kids liked that movie.
Yeah.
I was shocked at how many high school people were in the audience. Not kids, but like high school kids.
I can't imagine how anybody liked that movie.
Yeah, and they all loved it too. They were like cheering. It was ridiculous. Maybe they loved to laugh at it. Anyway, we're not talking about that. We're going to jump on to the main part of the podcast. And we will start with The Forgiven.
The Forgiven stars Ralph Fiennes and Jessica Chastain as an incredibly bored married couple. He's a doctor. She's a children's book author. They're on their vacation in Morocco, and they're heading somewhere deep in the desert where their good friend Richard, played by Matt Smith, has a home in the middle of the desert, a nice mansion out there in the middle of the desert, alongside his boyfriend, played by Caleb Landry Jones. They're going there to spend the weekend and party and do drugs and get drunk, which, just kind of what the idle rich tend to do. Unfortunately, on their way there, they have an accident in which David, who's driving, David is Ralph Fiennes' character, hits a young Muslim boy with the car and kills him. So they put the boy in the car, they take him with them to the mansion, and they hope that their friend can get him out of this, figure out a way for them to get out of this. So mostly Fiennes is just thinking, well, if the family comes, we'll just pay them as much money as we have to just put this thing behind us and get moved on. When the family does arrive the following day, the father, Abdallah, decides that he doesn't want money. He wants David to come back to his village with him and help him bury his son as part of a tradition in his village. Something that David certainly does not want to do. He makes the obvious observation, what if this guy's with ISIS? Like the kind of, horrific Americans or Westerners that we are. We tend to jump to that immediately. Eventually, he does agree to go. Meanwhile, Jessica Chastain stays behind at the party, where she'll hang out with Christopher Abbott and begin to have an affair, all while he's risking his life to go bury this kid in the desert. It's not a great movie. It's not a terrible movie. There's a couple of really good things about it. There's good aspects to this movie, like the scenes between Abdullah and David as they're getting to know each other, and David is slowly coming out of his rich guy drunken stupor and begins to kind of recognize his own humanity and Abdullah's humanity, and begins to identify with the man's grief. There's a couple of really good back and forth between them that are really, really solid. Ralph Fiennes is a very good actor. Unfortunately, everything that's happening back at the party, which is supposed to be kind of a counterpoint to that very serious plot, with this sort of plot that mirrors sort of the Great Gatsby combined with like the satire of the lazy 1%, the 1% who has so much money that they don't know what to do with it, and they just throw it around endlessly while they sit around pools or go to fantastic locations to sit and do nothing because they can't think of anything to do anymore. So they do drugs and get drunk. That part of the movie just never really takes off. Matt Smith and Caleb Landry Jones try to bring some elements of humor. Caleb Landry Jones especially is relied upon to try and bring some sort of transgressive, dark humor to the movie, but he really just comes off more as mean and kind of just mean and drunk more than he does in any way transgressive or humorous. Then they have this character who's a servant to Matt Smith and Caleb Landry Jones' character, who they cut to this guy for reaction shots constantly. He's a Muslim man. He's working and living on this compound where these two gay men in a Muslim country are operating this house and having this bacchanal of a party, this den of sin that they've created. And they keep cutting to this guy this Muslim guy, and for reactions, and you think, is this going to pay off somehow? Like, is he judging them? Is he going to act on this judgment? And nothing happens with this guy. He just reacts to everything with this stone face, or he looks kind of angry as if there's going to be a plot here, and then nothing happens. And it's kind of weird and kind of strange, and just nothing. It just doesn't work. And overall, just the movie doesn't work. And it's a real shame. The parts here are really great. I mean, when you're talking about Caleb Landry Jones, Jessica Chastain, Matt Smith, Ray Fiennes. I mean, you've got some incredible pieces to work with here. And the movie really does nothing with Jessica Chastain other than admire her beauty in this, the heat and the sunshine of Morocco. And that's pretty much it. she's really gorgeous and kind of bored and cheating on her husband. That's pretty much all she is. There's nothing more to it. And that is a waste of your Jessica Chastain movie, a big, big waste.
Yeah, it almost seems like they should have focused more on the kid and the family and that whole dynamic.
Yeah.
Maybe worked her into that story too, versus, I have no interest in her. Like, adding the affair is like an unnecessary addition to this. I mean, I haven't seen the movie, but based on the way you're describing it, I'm definitely fascinated by one end of what you're talking about. The other end I don't care about, because we've seen it a million times and I don't need to see it in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point there. If the movie had just, instead of them actually going to the party, they just get in the accident and then they're confronted by the kid's family and they're made to be part of that plot, there's probably a better movie there.
Yeah, but they didn't do that, so it wasn't undeniably wicked or thrilling to watch or a boozy biting saga.
No, it wasn't. I disagree with whomever said that.
I think variety is one of them. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Clara Sola.
Yes, Clara Sola is I believe it's a Mexican film. It stars a woman who is actually a performance artist and dancer. She plays the lead role here of this woman who is kind of in her early 40s, but she acts as if she's like a very young teenager. She's got a lot of curiosity. She seems to have some stunted growth. Her mother has sort of cared for her entire life and created all these boundaries for her not to surpass, out of concern for her childlike mind. Meanwhile, she's also a healer. She's seen as somebody who can channel the healing powers of Mary, the mother of Jesus, and that when she touches someone, she can heal them. So they use that to make money for the family, but they also do that because perhaps she does actually heal people, which we'll see as coming about as part of the film. She's now reached this portion of her life where she's finally sort of growing into teenagerhood. She's also kind of growing sexually. And that's when this young man begins to visit the farm to take her horse, because they have this horse on their farm that he takes out tourists on the horse and so on. And he's a very attractive young man, and he's just begun working there. And that begins sort of a plot for her to begin to, I don't want to say fall in love, but begin to have sexual feelings, to the point where her mother starts punishing her for touching herself. And it's a couple of very strong and very kind of disturbing scenes of that. Really fascinating movie, exceptionally well made. It's gorgeous, as you can see from the poster. The scenery here is spectacular, and the performances are all first rate. This is a young director who has a very, very bright future. We're talking about Natalie Alvarez-Massen. Very, very good director, a great deal of control over this. It's not an easy movie to describe. It's not a movie that has much of a plot. There is something of a semblance of a plot, but more often it's just observing this very unique woman in these very unique situations, and how this sort of childlike older woman is coming around to these situations. And that's really what Clara Sola is. And that makes it far more interesting than a lot of other movies.
Can't wait till she directs the next Alien movie. All right. This sounds fantastic. And you're right. I mean, I love the poster. It looks amazing. I hope to see it at some point. I'm glad to hear that it's good. It's awesome.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
you talked about this next movie last episode. I did go and see it based on your review of the movie. I from the get-go, I wanted the black phone for those of you listening on, most of you who are listening on the podcast, not watching YouTube. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because it's on the last episode, but ever since seeing the first trailer and the poster and the scene that was Ethan Hawke, I was like, I want to see this really bad. And then it was like, there's no way it could live up to this poster or the trailer or whatever. And I think your review knocked it out of, hit the nail on the head. It's a very solid horror movie. Almost like almost as dark as like Silence of the Lambs, but then with this kind of kid, like Stranger Things kind of atmosphere mixed into it, that it really like it's scary. The jump scares are well earned, but it's very watchable, and it's not so dark that you're gonna be thinking about it for days, but you're gonna leave more with an experience that was kind of fun to watch versus something just dirty and gross. And I was really kind of shocked by how much I enjoyed it.
Scott Derrickson is a terrific director. He directed Sinister and Doctor Strange, the good Doctor Strange movie, right. And he's tremendous. He does a great job, and he loves to tell this kind of story. And this is a very unique story. They came up with some very unique ideas for it. There's supernatural elements. There are very violent and abusive elements to it that are. There's a great mystery element to it that really plays out extraordinarily well. Really smart characters too, and I keep going back to the Jeremy Davies character who plays the father of the two kids in the movie. He just does so much with so little, and that's really just something that you don't see a lot. Also, again, with that character, they also use him to take the kids places in this movie that you really don't ever see a movie go to, which is really shocking, transgressive, perhaps triggering for some, but again, it adds to the atmosphere and the horror of the whole thing.
Yeah, and one thing about Scott Derrickson, kind of where he got his start as a filmmaker, is he like took a Hellraiser movie seriously. Like I've never watched it, but I've heard it's actually fairly good for being a Hellraiser movie, and that's where he kind of got Sinister and all these other opportunities out of that. And to me, I think that's funny, and at some point I have to make an effort to watch that.
I was not aware of that, but okay.
Yeah, he was, and I heard him on I think it was Kevin Smith's podcast years ago, and how basically he was like, well, if they give me this Hellraiser movie, I might as well do the best I can do with it, and made a somewhat watchable Hellraiser movie, which I don't know. I just think it's fascinating.
I wouldn't imagine a Hellraiser sequel that's actually watchable. So I mean,
it's like Hellraiser 10 too. It's like I don't know for sure, but at some point, if Scott Derrickson does something soon after this, maybe we can remember it. But I just wanted to bring it up briefly on the show because I definitely recommend going to see it, especially if it's a week like Minions. Why not go see this instead?
There you go.
All right, but here's why we're all here. David Cronenberg's new movie, Crimes of the Future, is available to stream, and that we did.
Yeah, indeed.
Crimes of the Future.
Crimes of the Future stars Viggo Mortensen as Saul Tenzer. He is a performance artist, and his art involves this sort of new kind of evolution, this accelerated evolution that's going on in this universe that is causing people to evolve even past pain. Like humans in this time frame no longer feel pain, but Saul in particular has a talent where he can grow new organs seemingly at will, and as part of his art, alongside of his partner played by Léa Seydoux, he has these organs removed from his body in a public surgery. He then takes those and he tattoos them and puts them on display for people to pay to look at, and that's how they make their money. There's a 2-track plot going on here. There's Saul's plot that is about him and his performances, but also this secret kind of meeting he's having with government agents from an organization called New Vice that is trying to prevent the new evolution, the accelerated evolution. And there's this other plot going on where you got a character played by Scott Speedman, who is part of this evolutionary sort of terrorist group that has been experimenting with the human digestive system to try and create people who can essentially eat plastic as part of just because that's the future of humanity. Food is going to run out because of the environment, and eating plastic is kind of the way to go. And obviously there are some who would like to stop that and prevent it from happening. Meanwhile, Saul is kind of caught in the middle of that. And there's a lot of plot going on there. But of course, there's also a lot of really tremendous body horror. And that's really what we get into with David Cronenberg. He's just so brilliant in that aspect of bringing you these shocking visuals and these amazing sexual images and just things that are just going to continuously knock you off your feet or knock the breath out of you while you're looking at it. It's really a lot of really striking images. But of course, then returning to talking about the movie, it's also back to typically Cronenbergian themes, which one of which is bodily autonomy. And here, unlike Shivers was very much against the idea of a government trying to force its way into a human body, essentially the government acting as the aliens in that film, invading people's bodies against their will. Here, Cronenberg seems to want to have a conversation about the role that, how fast we're evolving versus how much people should be prevented from evolving. He certainly seems to be on the side of bodily autonomy, as he always is, but he's open to having a conversation about it. And then this movie is about that sort of conversation about the way humanity is changing. And I think that comes about through the rather ambiguous ending, which I think people need to see for themselves. It's a really smart, really exciting ending, but everything about this movie is really exciting. I want to warn people, if you're going into this like I want to see a Kristen Stewart movie, Kristen Stewart is in the movie, but it's not a very big role. This has been played up a little bit because I'm not sure if it's because Kristen Stewart really wanted to work with David Cronenberg or because they needed somebody on the poster who could sell some tickets. Either way, it's a very small role. It's a very effective role. She's very good. She's got a couple of really effective scenes. I love the way that she kind of gets turned on watching Viggo Mortensen get surgery. And she's, again, there's somebody in the movie who says that surgery is the new sex, which is a very striking statement. So much of this movie is very striking, though. Cronenberg's incredible. I think this is one of the best movies of the year. I think it's one of the best movies of his career. I was blown away by it, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't agree more. And I guess he wrote the script like 20 years ago or something like that.
Oh, like 50 years ago. I mean, I think he did a version of this.
Well, he had a movie
title called Crimes of Nature, like in 1969.
Yeah, I think he's used the title. I think even our classic Existence at one point was called Crimes of the Future. So I think it's the title he's been sitting on forever, but he actually had the script done like in the 90s or something like that. And then he just never followed through with it. But I guess the fact that I think like 80% of us actually have microplastics in our digestive system right now kind of made that more a more relevant topic. And also probably why he's more interested in the conversation versus the to what you were saying earlier. But all that aside, this is just a fascinating movie from beginning to end, from the acting to the scenery to the body horror, everything about it. I watched it twice. I follow the movie. I don't fully know what his intentions are in certain things. I do think he leaves things a little ambiguous on purpose, where we can kind of decide what we want to do. But either way, I think no matter which way you want to go with it, I feel like it works. I just am really everything about. I've watched it twice already. One, because I spent $20, right? I'm going to make sure I go. But two, I started watching this, and I don't want to badmouth another podcast or YouTube channel, but they're called Movie Emporium, and they're way better. They look better than we do on YouTube. They know where the bell is. They point. Say, click here, subscribe. They do it way better than we do.
Yeah. They
did not understand this movie. They're talking about how big a Cronenberg fans they are, and they're like, we thought we were getting a body horror movie. Apparently, it's not that. And they're talking about people walking out of the theater. It's not because it's gross. It's because it's boring. This movie's boring. And they like at the very they talk about the kid at the beginning eating plastic. What was the point of that? I'm like, did you watch the movie? I mean, these guys were the biggest idiots I've ever seen. Like, and they're like, they got to go see it at like fancy festivals and shit. And it's like, are you kidding me? These guys are getting that, and they didn't even get the fucking movie. Like, really kind of pissed me off. Made me watch it again, but.
Yeah, I mean, the eating plastic thing, that kid is incredibly important to this plot. What occurs with him beginning to eat plastic, whatever happens to him, which I don't want to spoil. There's also, he's part of this sort of centerpiece scene near the end that is exciting. It's shocking, appalling. Everybody in the movie is shocked by what happens in that autopsy scene. And you're talking about both sides of the aisle here in this conversation that they're having about bodily autonomy and this accelerated evolution. Everyone is shocked by what happens here, and it's really cool. Like, it's a really great scene. And Léa Seydoux in that scene, oh my God, is she incredible. So much power. She is monologuing your way through that scene, and she's incredible.
She's almost, I'm in a lot of ways, the best part of the movie. She's awesome from beginning to end in this.
Absolutely.
I mean, Viggo Mortensen's, he's doing a great job of not going full Jack Nicholson chewing the scenery, but he gets to do a lot of fun acting stuff with his character. But it fits in the role that it's not distracting. And obviously, Kristen Stewart in a much smaller role is very an amazing scene. Everybody in this movie is just, they're playing their job perfectly. And it baffled me to have anybody, especially to call yourself a Cronenberg fan and say this movie's boring and sucks. I get that. This is one of my favorite Cronenberg movies. It's definitely my favorite one in recent memory. Now, granted, we haven't, a lot of the ones we've watched for the first time in the last 5 years, but they're 20, 30 years old. This one, I in terms of his body horror movies, I think it might be my favorite. I think I even like it better than like Eastern Promises and History of Violence. This is that just intriguing and neat and artistic, and everything about it is so Cronenberg, almost like it combines everything he's ever done into this kind of this masterpiece. And it's like, a lot of directors don't get to do that,
And I mean, if you call yourself a Cronenberg fan, if you don't recognize his themes, like he seems to have he has a huge fascination with surgery and with the human body. He's also got this fascination, like I've pointed out when we talked about Shivers, and again about this movie, he's fascinated by bodily autonomy, about the idea of how you give up your body, or whether you give up your body, or whether somebody has the right to invade your body. That's something that's been a theme of his, like I said, all the way back to Shivers in '75, and he's still talking about that. He's still having that conversation about that today, and that conversation is even more relevant than it was in '75, which is fascinating. It's classically Cronenberg in that way. This is this is something that harkens back to really all of the great themes of a Cronenberg movie. So how anybody, I mean, there's a moment here that recalls an even more kind of transgressive version of the scene in Videodrome where James Woods gets a videotape shoved into his stomach. Instead, here it's somebody unzipping someone's stomach and then filleting it.
And it's not like, it doesn't pull you out of the movie. Like, the way we talk about it out of context, I can see why you'd be like, that's dumb. But it fits perfectly in the movie. It's just so, and watching, I mean, I watched several minutes, maybe a few hours. I don't want to exaggerate how much I watched of just interviews with Cronenberg. And it's one thing I've noticed in listening to him talk is that different than like a Scorsese who kind of has a vision of what he wants. Cronenberg seems to not really know if he can pull it off, and he wants to see if he can, and that's kind of, or even if he finds something interesting and he doesn't know how he feels about it, but he's going to just kind of play around in it and see where it comes out. And and we were going to talk about Crash, but unfortunately it wasn't available. But that was exactly what he said he did. He read the book and he hated it. He just goes, I want to see if I can do this. And that's, and it seemed like he did that a lot over his career. And I definitely can see that here, and it's very. I don't know. It's not for everybody, obviously,
Obviously.
uh, but it's not boring at all. I don't get where anybody would say that.
No, absolutely. That's that blows my mind that anyone can find this boring. I found this endlessly fascinating. I was wrapped up in this movie. Uh just kind of, I'm just trying to process just even hearing the idea that this is a boring film, because it's certainly not. Um where was I going with this? I had another great point
Sorry.
to make, and I can't remember now. But I mean, just this movie is phenomenal. It's so classically Cronenberg. I love the like sex is a big part of what Cronenberg does, and that's certainly not something that's really in fashion in this day and age, is having as much nudity and sex as he has in his movies. But it's never pointless. It's never gratuitous. Everything has a point or a purpose to it as to why it's happening. It's happening to titillate you. It's happening to surprise and shock you. It's happening to demonstrate the themes of the movie. Like I said, surgery is the new sex. Is again, there's a lot. That line may sound very straightforward, but it has a lot of layers to it when you watch the movie. Another thing I think that really kind of hurts some people's perceptions of this is that some people came out of some early screenings saying that this is one of Cronenberg's, creepiest body horror movies. And it's like, no, don't overhype that. That's not the case. It definitely has that. I think somebody just saw an early photo of the ear guy and go, oh yeah, Cronenberg, he's going crazy in this one. And it's like, no, just ear guy. That's it. Really. It's just ear guy and the stomach zipper.
But it's just a lot of surgery. I mean, that's kind of and the way they do it's very neat. I mean, he's kind of done part of why we picked the classic Existence. The way they play the game is very similar to the way they do the at least early on in that movie is very similar to the way they do the surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It just. Even like the sex, it's not really. It's the surgery. I mean, you don't really ever see sex in it. What they're doing is they're performing surgery on one another,
mm-hmm.
and they're
finding sexual satisfaction,
pleasure. Yeah, exactly. And a lot, and it's just. I mean, you look at other filmmakers, and let's just go back to Scorsese. I mean, in a lot of ways, something like The Departed or The Irishman is the movie that. Is what are the most recent ones where he's taken all his history, and those are the ones you would point to, but they're not his best. His best were very early on.
Mm-hmm.
This is equally as good as anything he's ever done, and that is a hard task to accomplish, especially with someone who's got the catalog that he has as a filmmaker.
Absolutely. For him to have a movie of this quality so late in his career is just another testament to how brilliant he is.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to keep talking about it, but I don't know what else to say. It's just
I don't want to spoil anything, because you could spoil this movie. You could spoil aspects of this movie that I think you need to experience. There are two characters we haven't even talked about who have a very odd role that has certainly thrown a lot of people for a loop, and they don't quite understand those. I don't really feel like I quite understand where those characters are coming from, but I think I understand which side of the conversation that they're on, which is again the whole point. And it's also he kind of marks areas where there are people who are on not both sides of the conversation, but they're like on the edge of one side or the other, kind of coming around to an idea of where they stand, which is so representative of like any conversation we have in America today. There's always some people who are kind of leaning one way or the other, but not fully committed to it. And I think there's an aspect of that. So within those characters, within several other characters that pop up in this movie, but it all makes for this brilliantly fascinating, engulfing movie that just it grabbed me from the first moment, and it held me in place the entire time.
Yeah, it's definitely worth every penny to go see this movie. One of the year's best for sure.
Definitely.
Obviously not the best because it's Everything Everywhere All at Once. But that's still very high praise. This is going to be one of the best years in movies if we keep going like this.
Yeah, there's so many good movies this year. It's really great.
Yeah, I've been so excited about this, and this one did not disappoint even a little bit. So let's move on to our classic. We couldn't find Crash, so my brother goes, "You need to watch Existence. That looks way more like Crimes of the Future." And according to him, that was once called Crimes of the Future. Anyway, it's Existence, starring Jennifer Jason Leigh, Jude Law, Willem Dafoe, etc.
And dating back to 1998, the story is about a new sort of video game that goes inside of your mind and takes you on this very strange, very realistic journey. Jennifer Jason Leigh is the supposed creator of this game. Jude Law is a marketing executive who ends up becoming her sort of protector after an attempt on her life, leaves her having been shot by one of the most unique guns in movie history. Thankfully, she survives that. They go on the run together. They end up eventually going into the game after he gets himself a bioport in his back. Bioport is something you have to have in order to play the game, and you get this weird skin thing that is your controller, and that is where the game is controlled from. And it's all very Cronenberg stuff. I think this is not my far from my favorite Cronenberg movie. I didn't really follow what his themes exactly were in this one. The freedom of the mind versus the arresting of the mind perhaps could be a theme, or maybe it just doesn't have any themes at all. He just doesn't like video games. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly where to come down on this one. I think Jude Law and especially Jennifer Jason Leigh are really great. Jennifer Jason Leigh especially has a number of really terrific scenes, and she looks amazing in this movie. There's a couple of pretty interesting performances there also by Willem Dafoe in a relatively small role, Ian Holm, Sarah Polley. But overall, this one just came up a little short for me. But I mean, even a mediocre Cronenberg movie is better than most other people's movies.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like, if this wasn't his movie, I'd be like, this is really cool, really neat. I never, but the fact that it's Cronenberg and it's the same week we watched Crimes of the Future, I still like it. It's you mentioned Jennifer Jason Leigh, and I have a way bigger appreciation for her lately. She's been really fantastic in a lot of movies. I'm sure she has always been, but I've really started to notice it probably in the last 5 or 6 years, and she's no different here. She really does carry this movie, and she's got great actors around her that, she's the main one carrying it. It's really watchable. It's fun. Like I look at like The Game by Fincher. I like this better than that. I thought the problem with that movie is you weren't wondering the whole time. I mean, you just kind of knew he was in the game the whole time. I mean, that's kind of how I felt, at least. I don't know. And it just meant for kind of a disappointment. Then here it was just kind of, and I don't even know, he almost does it too much in this movie. But at the same time, it's, The Matrix came out around the same time as this. And a lot of us were like, well, where does The Matrix begin and where does it end? And it's the same kind of idea. So I think
The Matrix was a little bit clearer about it than this movie is. This movie is toying with you perhaps a little too much by the end, to the point where I'm not sure whether there was any kind of objective reality throughout, all the way through to the end of the movie. I'm not sure if there was any type of objective reality. For me, the real star of the movie is this bizarre tooth gun that is really, I think it feels almost like that's the thing that everybody wanted to see about this movie. It's like made from like animal bones and teeth as bullets, and it's so crazy and so creepy and so weird. But it's also very, very cool and very, very Cronenberg. The game play on this, this skin pocket thing is kind of a classically Cronenberg idea, along with the so-called bioports. But beyond that, I just didn't really go for Jude Law and Jennifer Jason Leigh as a couple, or even as kind of people who would get on as well as they do. They don't seem to have as much chemistry as needed. Jude Law's a little bland as the leading man here. I don't think he's really developed that sort of presence that he certainly develops as he goes on as an actor. And he's really just blown out of the water by Jennifer Jason Leigh, whose performance is just so confident and so on the ball throughout that it's really, he comes off as even more bland when he's compared to her.
Yeah. But I mean, I still found it fun. I didn't walk away from it mad at it or anything like that. But it's not Crimes of the Future, but not very much is. But no, you're absolutely right. Jennifer Jason Leigh owns this thing, and I guess I'm curious to see more stuff she's done now. You know, we're always we're always finding these new people we've known about, but it's just like she really is quite good, and she's been quite good. I mean, Hateful Eight, she was awesome in that.
Oh man, yeah.
And so it's just like, I mean, I remember her in things, but maybe she was better than I remember.
Well, she was really great in the Alex Garland, Natalie Portman, Oscar Isaac movie, Annihilation.
Oh, yeah.
Very pivotal, very important, very well acted role in that film.
Yeah, she's just great at adapting into whatever role she needs to be. And that was the most fun part for me, was watching her. Because it really was her movie, in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
But again, this will be one of and I think just where it came out versus, you know, he already had a nice catalog going into this one. It comes out in the late 90s. He's not the same guy he was in the early 80s. So again, it's good. I have no problem. I actually enjoyed watching it, but
I didn't hate it. I just think it's in terms of my love of Cronenberg. I love Shivers. I love Rabies. I love obviously Crimes of the Future. Videodrome even is better than this. It's probably, I would rank this higher than Scanners. I think Scanners is probably his most overrated movie. But I would even take The Brood over this one, honestly.
Yeah, but we watched it. I'm glad I did.
More Cronenberg to come. I want more Cronenberg. I want to watch Dead Ringers.
Oh yeah, we haven't done that one yet. Yeah. Anyway, 30 years ago, the big movie that came out was A League of Their Own.
Yeah, League of Their Own, directed by the late Penny Marshall and starring Geena Davis, Tom Hanks, Madonna, Lori Petty. Wonderful cast telling a real story about real women who played baseball while men were overseas fighting World War II. This is a terrific story, very, very funny, remarkable characters, and really just Penny Marshall is just such a terrific comedy director. She just knows these characters and knows how to utilize them to the best of her abilities. She's great at just picking these moments, but also being able to stick to telling her story. And in Geena Davis, she's got this rock, this anchor right at the center that really holds everything in place. Her performance is just so smart. She doesn't get to be as flashy or as funny as everybody else, but she manages to hold the whole together so very, very well that by the end, you actually get some real emotional resonance from her facing off against her sister in the big moment in the big game. And that can often come off as a cliche in a sports movie, but here it felt fresh. It felt different because Geena Davis is so fresh and so different from every other kind of sports movie personality that you've ever seen. And you've got Tom Hanks in this sort of anti-Tom Hanks role, this sloppy, messy, gross, jerky character who has maybe the most obvious arc in the movie, from being this low-life drunk to being a guy who comes to care about these people and about Geena Davis's character. I was reading an article actually about how they actually did have a scene between Davis and Hanks where they were going to kiss, and they decided to take that out because they felt that it harmed Geena Davis's character too much, and that audiences might not want to see her cheat on her husband, which I think it was a good idea to take that out. I like the fact that they had some romantic tension, but they didn't act on it. It just makes her seem like a better person not acting on it. I love this movie. I think the movie is fantastic, and it's really just a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I think Penny Marshall deserves a ton of credit because someone I know, Josh, has the same kind of feeling I do. It's stupid, but it's still something I have when I watch a sports movie and I can tell they don't know what they're doing. That always bugs me. And there are times when Geena Davis doesn't let you know what she's doing. However, the way Penny Marshall frames it and puts it together, it doesn't matter. Like it still, it doesn't distract me from the movie like it would in a lesser movie. And I think that's a really important thing that Penny Marshall did. I don't even know exactly what she did, but it just at no point am I just sitting there pull out of the movie when something bad happens. When it's like she swings and the ball goes straight up in the air versus out of the park. It's. I mean, obviously I notice it because I'm talking about it, but it doesn't. The movie keeps going, and it's so fun and sweet and smart and emotional that it's just really well made and one of the better baseball movies. Probably the top 5 for me, baseball wise.
Absolutely.
Maybe
definitely
top
belongs
3.
Yeah, it definitely belongs in that conversation because this movie is that good because of Penny Marshall and her remarkable talent. It's as if in her family she got like 99% of the talent, and then Gary got 1% of the talent.
He made 99 movies for every one she made.
Despite his complete lack of talent. But no, I think there's another great story that Geena Davis tells. And I think Variety did a 30-year retrospective recently where they talked to the screenwriter and Geena Davis and Lori Petty. And Geena Davis tells a story about how she went to the audition and met with Penny Marshall. And when she did, her agent said, "Now don't throw a baseball. Whatever she asks you to do, don't throw a baseball. Just tell her you're there to act, not throw a baseball." And then Penny eventually talks her into throwing a ball, and she's bad at it. It's terrible. She didn't know how to throw a baseball. And of course, she goes on to learn that. And you see her, they really put in, like, her and Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell and the entire cast put in a great deal of work to get to being credible baseball players, to look like they were knowing what they were doing. And that's certainly, I think you can see a lot of that work in the movie.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the great part is she did surround them with, like, Rosie O'Donnell clearly knew what she was doing. Lori Petty did as well. And Madonna was Madonna enough to make it entertaining when she's out. I mean, it was just a perfect mixture of everything that this movie really is better than it. I mean, it gets a lot of credit, so I'm not trying to say it's underrated, but it kind of is. It really is as good as everybody says it is.
There's a wonderful thing in this movie too. There's a character who is treated as a very ugly woman. She's not an typically attractive woman on the team. She's kind of big and kind of very shy and very standoffish. But the movie does kind of poke fun at her looks, but then they come back around on that very early on and give her a couple of really emotional moments where Penny Marshall fought to get those scenes in there between her and her father, which really kind of ground her in a sort of reality, as opposed to what the movie is going to do with her, which is kind of make some jokes at her expense. But I don't think she's necessarily entirely the joke of the movie. And I really appreciated that they did that with that character, because that could be just kind of a stock jokey character.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was no repetitive character in this movie. Everybody served a purpose, and it was a step over the top, but in the perfect way. I mean, it was just, everybody was on the same page. It flows perfect. There's no distractions. It's just a really well-made, great movie.
I went to school with a kid. His last name was Stillwell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Stillwell Angel. Yeah, he was not a fan of this movie. He was like, I think he was a senior, and we were almost seniors in high school when it came out. And he was not a fan of this movie because people in the hallway called him Stillwell Angel.
But even that character had a great moment.
He did. He really did. That was lovely. They also had to fight to get that scene, the scene at the end in the movie. They had to fight to get that in there too.
Yeah, I mean, Penny Marshall deserves a shit ton of credit for this thing.
Absolutely.
There's really probably a better directing effort than just straight up technical work. Everything she had to do to make this happen and have her vision seen through to the end, just really impressive.
The original cut of the movie, the first cut that they made, was 4 hours long.
Got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we're going to talk about it, but Boomerang also turned 30. I didn't make a public picture for it, so I guess Boomerang's not on it. But
what was it? Boomerang, yeah.
Boomerang.
I have this pretty distinct memory of that movie. Yeah. It was one of Eddie Murphy's last kind of good movies. I always wanted Eddie Murphy to remain like an icon for me. And about this time when Boomerang came out, he was really much on that lower side of his career. And this one kind of popped up and made it seem like, oh, hey, maybe Eddie still has some gas in the tank. Like maybe he can still do something. It's a romantic comedy, and he and Halle Berry are really great, and the girls are really sexy. I don't know if this movie would hold up if I watched it today. I kind of worry that it probably wouldn't, but because I have not seen it in over a decade, I can recall. So I'm imagining there's just a lot of things in it that I wouldn't enjoy today, but now at the time though, like I said, I was really rooting for Eddie Murphy, and the movie did very well. And then again, after that, he just straight downhill until Dreamgirls.
And then downhill again, and then Dolomite is okay.
Yeah.
But he is revered as one of the best of all time, which
I mean, the man if a rumor goes out that he might be doing a comedy tour, it trends on Twitter. That's how relevant Eddie Murphy remains today.
Well, I'm considering, not to talk about anybody, I'm not going to name any names, but some of the guys who were considered great at one point are almost complete hacks nowadays.
It's so true.
So many great comedians, just all they want to talk about is cancer culture. And it's like, bring somebody back, bring Eddie back, and let him just do his thing, and I guess I don't want him to come back and go that angle.
Yeah. I worry that could be the direction it goes if he did come back. Maybe that's why he hasn't come back. He's like, oh, they'll just cancel me if I do.
They won't.
Because it doesn't exist.
Right. And if it does exist, it's like, you never heard about those women who Louis C.K. did stuff to. They were the ones who got canceled.
Yeah, true that.
All right. We'll play a little flick chart, and then I'll let you guys go. Babe, Pig in the City, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
I can't even remember whether we watched it fairly recently, and now I can't even remember Fear and Loathing anymore.
If it was Babe, the first Babe, I might go with that, but Fear and Loathing is at least original enough that...
Yeah, all right, I'll go there with you.
I mean, it's definitely overrated, but not to the point where I hate it. Wet Hot American Summer Ever After.
Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah, it's just so much fun. Changeling, Runaway Jury.
Changeling. Actually a pretty good movie.
Absolutely. Theory of Everything, Day and Night.
Day and Night is a Disney short. We might want to find another movie.
The Theory of Everything, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Yes. Machete, The Sixth Day.
The Sixth Day. That's how much I hate Machete.
I don't have an opinion. Annie, Kill Bill Volume 1.
Kill Bill.
At the end of the Minions movie, a lot of the Minions dress up as the bride. And my son, who has not seen Kill Bill, whispers over his cousin, you dress like the girl from Kill Bill. Anyway. Spoiler alert, there's a kung fu scene at the end.
Oh, wow. Well, that's a reference all kids get, is Kill Bill.
Yes. The number of people, when I say it was terrible, go, really? That I was surprised when I say that. It is pretty shocking.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just not for this podcast, I guess. Bad Boys for Life, War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
Bad Boys was pretty disappointing.
Yeah, it was.
Legends of the Fall, Jingle All the Way.
Legends of the Fall, just because I could take a nap during that one.
I did briefly fall asleep during Minions and started. I did the first part of a snore. My wife elbowed me. She said, "You're not doing that in here." No.
I've never heard of Godzilla versus Biollante. So.
Yeah, neither have I. Naked Gun 33 and the Third, The Final Insult, or Deadpool.
Deadpool.
Absolutely. Never a Weekend, 1921.
No.
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, Lost Highway.
Lost Highway.
Did you like that? I haven't heard you.
I actually didn't get to watch it, but this re-release that they just did, but I wanted to. I just didn't get to it.
The Hangover Part 2, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
I know Harry Potter is a better, more accomplished film than The Hangover 2, but The Hangover 2 is much more fun and shorter. So I'll take that.
Awesome. The Right Stuff, Final Destination.
Final Destination.
Yeah, The Right Stuff's just too boring for me.
Yeah.
Raging Bull, Batman and Robin.
Raging Bull.
Yeah, Some Like It Hot, Back to the Future 3.
Some Like It Hot.
Yeah. Forrest Gump, American History X.
American History X. Because I want Edward Norton to stomp Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Talk about a movie that has gotten worse as I've grown up with it. I mean, obviously, Forrest Gump's on a more rapid pace than American History X. A movie I absolutely loved and would put on this huge pedestal to oh my God, this is kind of shit.
I've never heard of The Haunted Sea.
Have I? I wish I'd never heard of Rambo 3. Friends with Benefits, Rambo 3.
Friends with Benefits.
Yes, Rambo 3 was that bad. Dangerous Liaisons, A Bug's Life.
Dangerous Liaisons.
Agreed. Helping Hands, 1941.
That's an our gang thing. I've never, no. Yeah.
Get Shorty, Heathers.
Controversial choice, but I'm taking Heathers. I like Get Shorty, but Heathers is one of those movies I grew up with and just really, really love.
Yeah.
I love that style of humor, just gets me. The words "I love my dead gay son" never fail to make me laugh.
Well, I feel like it's, and I'm young Gen X, but it's like the older Gen X crowds. That's one of their movies, and
yeah,
Get Short is more of a universally good movie. I like the specifics of that. Grumpy Old Men or Tombstone.
This is actually tough because Grumpy Old Men is really funny. Really, really funny. But then Tombstone, I mean, I really liked Tombstone when I watched it last. I think we did it. Did we do it as a classic?
Yeah.
We did. And I really enjoyed that. I really found that to be kind of a revelation seeing it again. You're going Tombstone, right?
I like them both, but I watched Tombstone. I've seen that probably 40 or 50 times, so
yeah. All right.
I tend to watch that once or twice a year. Deadpool, Get Shorty.
This is not a good day for Get Shorty. It's Deadpool.
One of the first times I've ever seen Get Shorty on this list. That's losing.
I've not seen Without Love. I should see that. Haven't seen it yet.
Halloween H2O, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events.
Halloween H2O.
That's the other one, so okay. Oblivion, Compliance.
Compliance. What a phenomenal movie.
Is that the...
That's the girl in the back of the restaurant being...
Yeah. Fucked up.
That movie is severely fucked up, but it is amazing.
Yeah. It's been 2012 since that came out.
I know, right?
Christ. I thought that was more recent. Babe or Shrek 2?
Babe.
Yeah. The Bucket List, South Side of You.
South Side with You. That's the Obama movie. Yeah. Way better. Anything, but a lot of movies are better than The Bucket List.
The Fountain, Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation.
Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation.
Is The Fountain.
Fountain is Darren Aronofsky with a crying Hugh Jackman.
Oh, I like that. I don't like it that much. Total Recall, how high?
Total Recall 2012 to be specific.
2012, yes.
I'm going how high?
I'll follow you there. Tears of the Sun, Christine.
Christine is far more memorable than Tears of the Sun.
Yeah. The Time Machine and Night at the Roxbury.
They're both trash. But I hate A Night at the Roxbury enough to pick a forgettable time machine movie.
It's definitely forgettable. The Rugrats movie, Gangs of New York.
Gangs of New York.
I don't love Gangs of New York, but I don't vote for kid movies. The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, Insomnia.
Insomnia by a lot.
Executive Decision, The Omen, 2006.
Executive Decision, just because they kill off Seagal so early.
I actually really like that movie. The Jewel of the Nile, The Client.
The Client is actually a really underrated movie.
Overrated book. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare.
Freddy's Dead.
The Freddy movies have gotten more votes than
they really deserve. Yeah,
they've lined up perfectly. Watchmen.
Is that the correct watch? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Watchmen, Double Indemnity.
Double Indemnity.
We watched that one. That sounds familiar.
I don't know if we watched it. I know I have, but I don't think we've done it. We should do it as a classic for sure because it's a fucking incredible movie. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Crow. The Crow. How sad is it that both Christy Swanson and Luke Perry are dead, though? That's so crazy that they're both dead.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Okay, fine. Christy Swanson is just a Republican, but to me, she's dead.
Yeah, for the second, I was just like, she just died like this week? I knew she was a crazy Republican. You had me really concerned that like I missed something.
Did you hear that in AEW they actually Christian, who's now in AEW, former WWE wrestler, actually brought up Luke Perry's death on the show to call out Jack Perry, who is Luke Perry's son, Jungle Boy in AEW. He's like, your dad would be so disappointed in you making a promo. It was so it was wow. You couldn't believe it. Tremendous promo. Sold the fact that he's a terrible human being really, really well.
I mean, obviously, he probably told him to say that.
I would hope so. I hope he got permission to say that before he did it.
Oh, man. That's... He was one of my favorites too, Christian. But I don't watch it regularly. I just watch highlights on YouTube.
Yeah.
On the occasional pay-per-view. National Born Killers, Mission Impossible 3.
Mission Impossible 3.
The Birds, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
I love The Birds, but Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is the winner of this one.
Absolutely. The Color of Money, Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
The best of all time. The Princess and the Frog, Coraline.
Coraline.
Beavis and Butthead Do America Wild at Heart. I wish we could see Wild at Heart.
I know, right? Oh man, but my memory of Wild at Heart is somewhat better than my memory of Beavis and Butthead. Not that I don't love Beavis and Butthead, and I do want to see the new Beavis and Butthead movie. I almost
watched it. I do. I watched the South Park movie, which was just it's called the Streaming Wars, where all they do is basically there's water shortage in Colorado, and all the weed farms that they now have turned on the show are streaming water to Denver. So they're all, the kids make these boats out of popsicle sticks and paper to see who's streaming the best, and they're committing to too many different streaming services. And they just said, we're done. We're just going to pick one streaming service and be done. And the South Park's on like HBO on Paramount, and then they got Comedy Central. And, it was fun for a while.
For the Birds is another short film.
Okay, Borat or Creed?
Creed.
I agree. That time we were done. I think they are.
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right, we will see you next week with Thor: Love and Thunder. And our classic is, at least for now, unless we decide to do something else, Big Trouble in Little China, because Thor is wearing that shirt. That's how original we're being.
Yeah.
That's anything else coming out next week?
I've got a couple that are in the works that I don't have right off the top of my head, but I will soon.
And nothing huge in 92, Universal Soldier, Cool
93.
World. 90.
No, it's 92. You're right.
And you really messed with me today. Christy Swanson first. And now the year. All right, talk to you next week.
See ya.
Bye.